Welcome to the Alaska Report. I'm Senator Mark Begich. This show is designed to inform you about the issues, programs, and people important to Alaska. Today I'm pleased to welcome the group of interns who have been working in my office this summer, and I have to say a very fine group of young people. My guests are Molly Carver, Brendon Gallant, Alaskan, and Haines Landry. Thank you for all being here today. Maybe we could just start with telling us a little about yourself and where you're from and maybe what school you're from. Molly?
My name is Molly Carver, and I grew up in Kodiak, Alaska, Kodiak High School, and I am entering my senior year at Willamette University in Oregon.
Very good.
As you said, my name is Brendon, and I went to Diamond High School, born and raised on the south side of town in Anchorage. I went to Willamette University for my undergrad, same as Molly. I stuck around for a grad school to get my MBA, and I'll be done in 2010.
Fantastic. See, everyone moved around, so people don't notice this. We rearranged the deck, and I put down the list so I wouldn't forget.
I'm Alex,
Yes, Alex.
and I grew up in North Pole. Now I'm going to school at UIF, studying poli-sci. I'll be a junior this year, so I'm looking forward to it.
Very good. Haines?
All right, I'm Haines. I grew up in Anchorage, went to West High, graduated in '06, and I'll be a senior at Colorado College next year.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for being here. I mean, I know the first thing you had to adjust to is the humid weather here. When it gets about 90% humidity and about 90 degrees, it is a little uncomfortable, I know. But I think all have adjusted here well. Give me, each one of you, and this is one, I will ask you different questions, but for all of you this time, just kind of what have you been really engaged in as an intern here? Give people a sense of some of the work you do on a daily basis. We'll start with Haines.
All right, Senator. I'm very passionate about climate change and energy issues, so I've been working on the Waxman-Markey bill, which is the climate change bill, and working on that as it pertains to Alaska.
And kind of analyzing it, giving feedback to the other staff members.
Exactly. Attending hearings, so it's been very interesting for me to be kind of on the forefront of the issue. That's what I'm really zealous about, so it's been a good opportunity for me. Yeah.
Alex?
Thank you. Yeah, I've been working on doing press stuff for the office. I've done a lot of stuff on the web, and we've been working to try and get out the message for everybody, try and make that available for everybody online.
That's a task, right? For me, it's for you to cover me and watch what I'm doing or not doing, right?
I wouldn't say it's a task.
But working with the press, and that's working with local press in Alaska, but also some of the national ones here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a chance to?
Yeah. It's been really great to get to watch and look in on interviews and see what's been going on here in D.C. It's very exciting.
Very good. Brendon?
Senator, excuse me, I was an undergrad major of economics, and I've got most of my experience in private business, private enterprise, right, background, similar to yourself. So,
Yes.
so I was really kind of diving into the area of Commerce Committee, kind of deeply involved in that with the cell phone issues and
Yes.
touching everything here and there. I actually helped work on one of your memos, so I got my name on the title for you to see. I was pretty excited about that. But
We should tell the viewers when there's a lot of material that's created from all the different committees and activity, and as a senator I get reports from folks like yourself and other staff members that describe some of the legislation or the items I'm going to be reviewing, and like the memo you just described is a lot of detail, but it also is the pro and con on an issue, the Alaska position on it maybe, the national position on it, and for me it's very helpful because it gives a lot of in-depth knowledge for me to utilize then in the committee hearing. So part of what we do here in this show is to kind of educate people who are watching about this intricacies, but the Commerce Committee is one of those that is pretty wide-ranging, to say the least. Molly?
Well, I'm actually really thankful to be here because I've heard stories of interns fetching coffee, making copies, and I've been working.
I do that around here.
Yeah, and mostly I've been working on the topic of the summer healthcare. So.
So for people, again, the healthcare issue here, which is an amazing variety of issues coming up, and it is one of the things, as you mentioned there, Molly. I mean, we all do everything here, but the way I look at interns is it's not just about like filing and fetching coffee, but really try to look at some of the issues, get engaged. There's some of that other stuff that's engaged that you have to do too, but the mixture is very exciting. Healthcare is a pretty important one.
Yeah.
Let me ask, and maybe I'll start with you, Alex, in regards to the idea of working with the press. What's the biggest surprise you've had as as an intern here, working with the press and or just in the office itself, that you would not expected when you came here?
Well, I'm surprised at I guess the number of press. I mean, they're absolutely everywhere. Not that that's a bad thing, but
Well, it depends. I consider it bad sometimes.
Well, it's incredible just to see all the faces that you've seen on the TV, to see them here in D.C. It's just kind of every time I see someone like a newscaster that I recognize, it's a little surprising.
Very good. Haynes, what would you consider kind of the most, one thing about what we do here every day, it seems like it's different. There's always something new. What has kind of been the most interesting item you've had to do, especially obviously you're in climate change issue, but anything else that you would consider as an intern that was kind of different and interesting for you?
Well, the most surprising thing about the internship for me, unrelated to climate change, is how close-knit the office is and how well the office...
If I could describe that for the viewers,
yeah.
close-knit would be your office desk or about as close as you are right now sitting,
Well, yeah,
right?
literally very close. I mean, we've been forced to get along because we're in such close quarters. But I was speaking more to how everyone in the office works so well together, and I think it's really unique in the sense that everyone in the office is kind of good friends, which I think contributes to a good morale and then a good work setting. So I was really surprised to see that for a Senate office. It's really impressive.
Do you think one thing I notice, and I don't know if you notice it as interns, and maybe Haynes, you could respond to this, and that is, do you find that there's a lot of diversity of ideas that people might have when something materializes, that it's not just everyone goes the same way?
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone has their own different ideas about
Passionate?
things. Yeah, everyone's very passionate, which is that's good. It's the way it should be.
I think it's a great benefit, I think, as a senator, to have staff interns that are not afraid to kind of step up to the plate and say, here's what they're thinking, and it helps me be a better senator, and interns are a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brendon, I know you just came in here from, as we got ready to start, from the cloakroom, and most people don't even know what the cloakroom is, so maybe you could tell, because you've had to go behind the scenes a little bit, as in all of you had in your own way. When people see the Capitol or what we're doing, they see the visual of us on the floor, but there's so much that goes behind it. But maybe you could tell us kind of what's the unique places of this facility that maybe you weren't really aware of, but how important it is to the function of what we do around here, and you as an intern, how you played a role.
Right. Well, other than our current surroundings right now, I had no idea that there were separate TV studios for Democrats and Republicans. But as you
that
said,
was a surprise to me, actually, when I came here. I didn't
no
realize
kidding.
it.
There's an extensive TV network as well, the C-SPAN, and that's all run, from what I understand, inside the Capitol. Like you said, the Democratic cloakroom. I was taking some of your documents there earlier for them to process. I'm not 100% sure of what they do back there, as I've only been there once. But
but you got to go back into the inner chambers,
right?
Which is
right. That's
very
right.
rare
And
experience
of course,
for
taking
people.
the subway. There are underground subways that run between
Yeah.
the Senate office buildings and the Capitol. And I was
Was it
actually
easy to figure out when you first got here all those subways worked?
No, absolutely not. I got lost. I got lost
I'm
quite
still
a bit.
trying to figure it out, so don't worry.
Exactly. It was very fun, and it's still a learning game.
Excellent. Molly, tell me, being an intern, and you made the comment at the beginning that it was more in-depth work and so forth. How do you think this, and I may ask each one of you in a different variation here, but how do you see this as an important, or does it help you in whatever you plan to do into the future?
Absolutely.
What do you gain from this experience, I guess?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. One of the things, as Haines mentioned, is learning how to interact in an office, how to work with other people and work independently. I think for a lot of us, this is one of our first experiences in a very professional setting. Learning how to adapt to a new place and the humidity.
To live and work.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you've had to adapt to this new environment here.
And it is very far from Alaska in a lot of ways. And
Right.
I think that's something that I've really benefited from, actually.
Do you guys, and I've not asked you this, and it just dawned on me, but because you're so far away from Alaska, what do you do in order to make sure you're not homesick too much? I mean, you obviously, the four of you may not spend time after work together because you spend all day to work. I don't know. Maybe you tolerate so much time together, but how do you keep that connection and not get homesick?
Well, I think we're on the phones with people from Alaska all day long, so for one thing.
For one thing,
Yeah.
Some are not very happy, right? Some are calling about other issues.
For Alaskans, yeah. Air conditioning.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, being around other Alaskans, that's definitely, it's a very close-knit community, and D.C.
Have you had, and let me kind of go down the row here, and Brendon, and I'll just kind of walk down here, but in the sense of Alaskans that have come in, have you met some folks that you didn't know but maybe lived in your community? I know we get a lot of visitors that come to our offices. Have you had that experience yet?
Yeah, I've actually given a number of tours to constituents that come in, but surprisingly enough, the weather is so fantastic up there. I don't think that many people have left. I know I had the choice over you. No, I'm just kidding.
The weather is unbelievable in Alaska right now.
Yeah, and well, I guess it's partly with the fires, but it's just
Yeah.
amazing. I'm so jealous because last summer and the summers, a few summers before that, leave a lot to be desired. But
Yeah.
So.
But you've had a chance to see some folks that
Definitely.
come from your
I
communities?
gave a mother and her high school daughter, or recently graduating high school daughter from Anchorage, a tour. A few other constituents, I believe, from Juneau, and then one of your staffers in the office had a relative in town. But yeah, it's great to meet other people in the state and maybe get a few business cards here and there and kind of plug them along the way, make the network connections.
Excellent. Let me ask both of you. We got about 2 minutes before our break here, but. When you have a chance, have you all done Capitol tours? Have you had to do that, each one of you, or just certain ones have done that?
Yeah.
Molly hasn't done it yet. How did she get away with that? Have you all worked the front desk, or is it? So
yeah, absolutely.
Tell me kind of the experience of the front desk, and let me describe that to the listeners and viewers. That's just where people call in, the first access point to the office here. One of your
Well, obviously working a front desk on the front is it's a positive and negative experience sometimes. Some people are a little unhappy, but I don't know. I enjoy it because I like to hear from people back home. It's nice to, like you said, get a contact back home, ask them how the weather is, and see what's been going on in Fairbanks.
Excellent. Haines?
Yeah, well, my hat's off to Maura and Chelsea, who usually work.
That's
the
our front
desk.
yes, yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's a difficult job. There's a lot to kind of juggle, and a lot of the calls aren't super cordial. But it's good to hear from Alaskans and hear their perspectives. It's surprising how many people call from outside of Alaska.
That's right.
We'd really like to hear from more Alaskans.
Yeah.
And hear their voice, because that's what really matters. But it's amazing how many people call from outside of the state. It's
the front desk, and when we get back, I want to talk to you a little bit about what those folks do and what generalists you have to be in the jobs that we have down here. But let me hold you there, Haines. We're going to take a short break here. When we return, we'll continue on the Alaska Report, talking to the interns who have been working in my office this summer, the actual first group of interns. We've welcomed them to our Senate office. We'll be right back.
Well, I was 10 when I first got involved with drugs. I skipped school because, nobody cared. I was on drugs, and my mom didn't really care because she was on drugs. She was never home. I was in 8th grade for like 3 years. I was heading nowhere. I just thought the only way I can make something out of my life is that if I get an education, I don't want to be a loser, some loser getting high all the time. I want to make something out of it.
Welcome back. On this edition of the Alaska Report, we're talking to a fine group of young Alaskans, our interns, Molly Carver, Brendon Gallant, Alex Kinn, and Haines Landry. We were talking at the break there, before the break actually, about some of the experiences you've had here. And Molly, because you're the lucky one that has the mic in your hand, you get the first kind of additional question here. But, we talked a little bit about, with you about the value of this. And how would you describe this to someone maybe who's thinking about an internship? Is it worth it for them to do? What things would you kind of flag them to be wary of? But also, what are the experiences they might have? Kind of give us your thoughts of the value of it, but also for other people.
Well, I would definitely recommend this to any Alaskan student who is not even someone who's necessarily interested in going directly into politics or government, but I really think that it provides a lot of lessons, a lot of things to learn. I think that, as I said, it's a great setting to learn about a new place, learn about how to interact with new people. I definitely would.
Brendon, what are some of the things that you know, I know this answer, but I want the listeners to hear this answer.
Hopefully I do too.
Yeah, hopefully you do too. That's a good way to look at it. When you went through the process, describe to an intern how you became. I know we have a process on the web; people can apply, and then what were some of the skills that you knew you had to have, or at least you were told you had to have, and you better be honed in on it? What was some of those experiences?
I'll break my process up because mine wasn't necessarily.
I know, because you are our first batch. We hadn't formalized everything.
Right. So there's the formal application. It was fairly easy to follow. John Vazina is the intern coordinator as well as your deputy scheduler, I believe. And he's been heading up the project. He was very personal about it. It was just a few questions, kind of your background, and then some essay questions to see how you would fit into the office. As we said earlier, tight-knit community. Personally, I'm literally John's next door neighbor, and so I ran into him and we got talking about it, and then that's how my internship search started. Excuse me.
And became aware that we had these opportunities.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's your first time in office, first year literally. So,
Yes.
As you said, the first batch, and that's how I personally found out about it. And then, like you said, got the formal facts set in order, and bought the plane ticket.
Did they do a little testing on writing skills for any of you?
There were was it 4 writings? I sent in 4 different writing samples, but it was
Maybe you have
compiled
to
as
do
one
4
big
and the
thing.
rest. Did you each have to do writing samples? I understood you had to, so I
Yes.
wanted to make sure.
I had to write a 50.
Here, let's pass that mic down.
50-page essay to start with, and then they had us run do a decathlon to test our
To test the
ability.
athletic ability.
It was quite the extensive process.
See, I can tell Haines must be the comedy act within the intern group.
I'd say this kid's the jokester.
There we go.
Yeah, Brendon.
Now, you didn't know each other, right, when you first became interns? Is that right?
Brendon and we
Knew each other, but so now you've gotten to know each other and you've gotten a sense of each one's skills. When you're working as a group, and you are very close-knit in the sense of the physical arrangements, how we have you situated in the office, are there times when, and again, maybe start with you, Brendon, and go to Alex, and that is, do you find times when you're working on a project and everyone else realizes you're looking for some additional support on it? Do others pitch in, or how does that work?
We all get individual assignments, but we all work on everything. I would say. I mean, I can't help if I glance over and, hey, Alex, what are you up to? Or if one of us comments on something that we read or we got assigned. So it's very much a group effort. But at the same time, there are tasks that we do. That
Very
require ourselves.
specialized.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I happen to I really like the front desk. As well as like helping research with certain other things. I know Molly has been just tearing up the constituent letters, and we've all
In a
kind of
positive way, not tearing them up,
right.
but actually.
Initially, the idea was to get us all started on doing everything in the office to get
Right.
to get a kind of bird's eye view. But we've all fallen to our places that we have specialized in that we like, which has made it more productive and as well as a more enjoyable environment.
Very good. Alex, tell me, I know the press issues are always kind of interesting around here because every day, and do you end up, and as part of the press, explain how kind of you get tuned up in the day? I know I get the clippings that you work on, but tell me how you get tuned up and ready for the day in the sense of understanding what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I do put together the clips, and a lot of people
And those are
give
bits and
hands.
pieces from all the different news stories that are going on
That's
that Alaska related or us in our office related.
Yep, absolutely, that's right. And a good way to start that off is, I do some searches for the different, things that we think are going on, as well as I go to most of the mainstream media sources for Alaska, like the Anchorage Daily News or the Daily News Miner. And I try and read as much as I can, try and get as big of a view as I can about what's going on in the day.
And I get that email fairly early, so you're kind of tasked that it's not something you do at the end of the day, it's something as soon as the publications occur, you have to get on it, so we are kind of ahead of the curve in case there's some
Absolutely,
issues that
and
are
it doesn't
brewing.
hurt that we're 4 hours ahead, so I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right,
to do
there's
it.
an advantage to that. Haynes, tell me, I know because you're working on the climate change issue, we have a delegation coming up at the end of August, and some of the questions you get are when you go to committee meetings, which I know for all of you that experience committee meetings, you kind of wonder when they ever end or what the subject matter is. Now, you have gone to some of the committee meetings around climate change?
I was at one this morning, actually, really fascinated. It was the Environment and Public Works Committee. Senate
That's on
committee.
the Senate side?
Right, on the Senate side. and they were discussing what can be done at the local and state level.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were various governors from around the country. I was particularly interested in Governor Ritter from Colorado, since I'm at Colorado College.
Oh, very good.
And just some great ideas floating around, and a lot that I think could be applied to Alaska. So it was good to kind of get a feel for some of those.
Do you get a chance to talk to other folks on that issue with other aides and other interns that might be working in relation to the senators in regards to climate change?
In the hearings
Yeah,
themselves?
yeah, off to the side, I mean.
Yeah. From time to time, you'll catch someone on the way back to
Right.
their office, and you'll chat about this and that. So it's.
I always like with the climate change issue because you can talk about the Alaskan viewpoint.
Yeah,
And it's very
yeah.
different. A lot of people have a hard understanding of what Alaska is about and the
Yeah.
climate change. Now, one good thing, we have 5 or 6 minutes here, so one of the pieces that we want to make sure we can do today, and I'm not sure I want to do this, but I will do it, and that is each one of you get a chance to ask me a question. And I'm nervous because I've not been prepped on the questions. And usually, as you know, the staff would prep me in preparation for questions, but this one I have no idea what you're going to ask. So why don't we...
Mine's kind of along what we were just discussing. So.
Oh, okay,
I mean,
go ahead.
what it's very general, but what can Alaska do to help mitigate warming while maintaining their oil and gas interests, which and I know it's very important to us to maintain
Right.
oil and gas interests. So.
I think, part of it is, as we were just talking just a second ago, about getting Alaskans aware of what we're doing, but also really the rest of the country, how Alaska works, that we have not only we're ground zero to climate change, but we're also have a strong oil and gas state, and how we can balance those. We're hopefully going to bring up half a dozen or so senators to the end of August to give them experience about Alaska and its uniqueness when it comes to climate change. I think when we look at climate change, because for Alaska, gas is going to be a big issue long term, and gas is a good fuel. It's a much more efficient fuel. It's a much more cleaner fuel, and Alaska probably will be a significant portion of the energy and climate change equation with gas. But now, saying that, we also have probably the most unique state. We touch every kind of renewable energy we do in Alaska. And we do it in a very unique way, if it's hydro, geothermal, or wind, or solar. So we have a lot to show to the rest of the world how we can do it in very remote areas, which I think that experience, that technology can be then exported around the globe. I think we have a very good sample opportunity there. Now, see, the worst thing is to give someone who's been working around the press the microphone to ask a question, but please.
Well, Senator, I'm a student at UAF, like I said earlier, and a lot of us are wondering about a lot of the issues surrounding paying for college. And we were wondering some of your thoughts regarding what can be done to help mitigate some of those costs and,
Sure.
and try and make the access available for everybody.
In the stimulus bill, which I voted for several months ago, we added an additional amount to the Pell Grants, increasing the capacity. The healthcare bill, actually, we're talking about how to ensure that the workforce has capacity to borrow money at reasonable rates, and also potential forgiveness clauses for those that get into general medicine, which is a huge gap. This is a big issue that's kind of slowly moving around the corner. I think there's some opportunities to give additional tax credits to families who pay for college as it gets more expensive. We are looking at the whole student loan program nationwide and how to reform it to make it more efficient and put more money into loans rather than people just paying interest. So there's a variety of things that are happening here, and it's very exciting because as a former chair of the Student Loan Corporation of Alaska for 7 years, I can take that experience and bring it here locally in the Washington D.C. arena for the national perspective. So there's a lot of good ideas that are out there, and we know that investment into education is, for an economic development plan, is the best investment you can do. There's no question about it. But it is very expensive. A doctor today who wants to be a general practitioner, it's about $300,000. You just can't afford it. So there are some efforts now, and there'll probably be more as we move through the fall. Very good.
That's great to hear.
Good. Brendon?
I was curious, you come from a private sector background. I think you got your business license before I was legally allowed to have a job, which is amazing. And I was just curious as to how that private influence has kind of come over to the government side, and more specifically your position here as senator.
It's actually very handy. You know, I've been in the small business world for over 25 years plus. My wife owns 4 small businesses. It really helps a lot because every day you run a business, you have to meet a payroll, you have to deal with consequences of a down economy or an up economy, you have to hire people, you have to worry about medical coverage, you have to balance your books. In a lot of ways, all that is a very valuable asset here. And being a small business person, you are very practical. In other words, you're looking not only for the solution today, but you're looking for the solution long term. In other words, whatever you do today, it will have impact down the road. So you come with a very different perspective, but being very, very practical. And that is desperately needed here. Wally, you get the last question. I don't know if I'm now very nervous.
Well, my question is kind of spurred on by the recent 8A
Yes.
situation, and also just the situation in rural Alaska. As you know, students in rural Alaska face unique challenges. In what ways are you going to work to improve education in the bush?
Well, the most important thing we can do, you know, I'm no big fan of No Child Left Behind. I think it really has hampered our ability to deliver education in rural Alaska the right way. I think we want to make sure in that reauthorization or any future legislation that we recognize rural Alaska and delivery. I think teleeducation is very valuable in rural Alaska, where you can literally utilize video conferencing to touch so many villages. And I think that's a new area that Alaska is on the forefront of. I think the same thing like anyone else has with college education, ensuring that we have capacity, but also career and vocational education is an important piece, not only to rural Alaska, but to urban Alaska. So these are the areas that I think we can make a big difference. But the bottom line is people want to make sure they have an education that gives them an experience and a job opportunity. And I think rural Alaska has a lot of challenges, but I can tell you I've been out there many times and see huge opportunity. We are just about out of time. We're on our last 15 seconds, and I want to say thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching the Alaska Report. To Molly, Brendon, Alex, Haines, I know your time with us hopefully has been valuable, and our time here showing to the public has also been valuable. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.